Hey, it's March 29, 2020. This is Andrew in Omaha, Nebraska. Today I'm putting together a CCW leather holster for a Glock Model 43 9mm. This system I've used to make for a Walther PPS as well, so it can be adjusted to fit any model gun. But this type of holster is made to wear inside the waistband. Basically, it tucks inside the belt and then it has a clip here that comes outside and clips down over the your 1.5-inch gun belt. The clip I'm using I get from Springfield Leather, and I like it because I don't know how well you can see that, but there is a little tab that bends up. You see it? There's a little hook right there that helps grab onto the belt and keep the holster secure while a person's wearing it. And just a little extra retention for the weapon. It just fits in there like so. This is Wickett Craig vegetable tan leather, all natural vegetable tan leather. It's not dyed or anything from the tannery. And I cut it down to about 4 ounces for both the outside pieces and the inside pieces. There's 4 pieces total used to make the main body of this holster. And so far I really like lining my holsters with the smooth side of leather on the inside. It just seems to give a little bit more stick to the weapon versus using like a suede. I know some people like to use suede, and that's fine. Right now I'm really liking just using a finished side of leather to line the holster with. I'm in the process of making another one here. It's the exact same holster. This one I just took out of the vacuum form bag. It's drying right now, so you can see it's still it's starting to return to the natural color. As opposed to this finished one here, I used olive oil to finish this holster, and I'm really liking the olive oil for the natural veg tan leather to finish it, as opposed to using any type of dyes or antique finishes. It almost has kind of a sunburst look to it, but every single one that I've done, the finish turns out just a little bit different. So this one will be a little darker and have that little sunburst effect kind of. And this one here could turn out much lighter. So it's just kind of neat to see how they turn out. Leather is different from animal to animal, so each piece takes oil differently, it takes finishes differently, it takes dyes differently, so it's just kind of neat to see what you end up with a finished product. I also used Phoebe's acrylic Resin to finish both the inside and outside of this holster to make it resistant to moisture. And I didn't put any type of edge coat or anything on this one. As I was slicking it up, the edges just turned out really kind of nice with the olive oil. I thought it looked cool, so I just sealed it up with the acrylic Resin and just left it natural. So now here's the strip that I cut out for this project. I'm just going to kind of lay out the design here to make sure I have enough material for the project. I just made it out of poster board. It's the same for both the front and the back. And what I'll do is I'll trace out the front and back pieces, and then for the liner I'll just glue those front and back pieces to a bigger piece of leather and then cut the liner out around the 2 pieces I already cut out so they're exactly the same size. Once I get done laying this out here, I'm going to run it through the splitter and cut it down to about 4 ounces for both the front and the back. Now I'm just using this little anvil to hold down the pattern while I trace it out with an ink pen, and I find that the ink pen is much easier to follow than using the scratch awl. And by the time I get this cut out and beveled, all the ink will end up being cut off before I ever get to the point where I need to finish the edges. Now I'm just laying the outside and inside piece on top of the lining piece, and then I'm going to glue them together using barge contact cement. Now you see the little copper stud that's off to the right hand side, kind of where I just set the glue down. I'm going to put that in the hole there on the holster and go ahead and glue that together now, because I won't have the ability to get to that once these two pieces are glued together. That way it protects the weapon from having that rivet possibly rubbing up against it. And now that the two pieces are glued together, I'm just cutting the liner out using the outside and inside piece there, main pieces, as a guide to make sure that they're exactly the same size. Now this will be the first trip to the belt sander. I have to use it twice on this project. Once when the pieces are not sewn together, and then once when they're sewn together, I'll hit it one more time to make sure it's absolutely even. But the large belt sander works fine for the large straightaways, but down in those little corners I will have to use a Dremel tool in order to get that evened up. Once I get the pieces off the belt sander, like I said, they turn up these little edges. So there's just this fine little edge that sticks up, and this craft tool fine edge beveler does a great job of knocking those off. Now I'm doing a quick mock-up of the clip here. What I've done is I have sandwiched this stud between the two pieces, the lining piece and the outside piece of the holster. That way the back of that stud won't be rubbing up against the weapon when it's inside the holster. Now, usually you wouldn't want a piece of metal inside leather before you wet form it, because it would discolor the leather around the metal piece, like if it was a steel snap or something on a thumb brake. It'll cause like a chemical reaction and turn the leather black and put this little black ring around it. But so far I found that this copper doesn't seem to have that issue with vegetable tan leather, so I go ahead and I put it in between these two pieces, lock it down with the cement, and I go ahead and wet form it before I go ahead and stitch it all together. Now I'm going to take this little square of leather that I cut out and I finished the edges on, and that's going to be the piece that holds this metal clip to the side of the holster. Metal clip, like I showed you earlier, is what holds the holster securely to the belt. But I got pieces of sticky tape that I just pressed down on either side of the metal clip, and then I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and stitch both sides of that little metal, or correction, that little leather square rather. I'm going to stitch those down with the metal clip. It's still installed in the leather, and it kind of helps as an edge guide as I'm going down with the sewing machine. Now I'm going to remove the metal clip, get that out of the way for finishing the rest of the project. And then at the very end I'll reinstall this metal clip in reverse of the way I just took it out, and then I will use the copper rivet to secure it down to the holster permanently. Now I'm starting the finishing process for the edges. I'm going to hit it with the edge beveler one more time here on the spots that I just hit with the belt sander and the Dremel. And then I'm going to hit it with the 220, then I'll wet sand it with 400, and I'll go back over it with a canvas cloth for a final finishing of the edges, and the canvas cloth does a really good job of getting the edges nice and slick. Now I've just taken the holster out of the water. I submerged it in some warm water for about 10 minutes, and now I just open it back up with that little burnishing stick, and then I was able to put the blue gun inside. And now I'm going to put the holster with the blue gun installed inside the vacuum form bag. I have these little pieces that I cut out here of leather with a hole to cover the stud so it won't puncture the side of the bag when it's vacuum formed. And I'll just put it in here. This is just a cheap Ziploc vacuum form bag that you can use for like storage of clothing and pillows and things like that around the house. It's the exact same bag, and I just use a wet dry vac to suck out all the air, and I'll leave that in there overnight. Now that the gun has been removed from the bag and it's mostly dry, I will take the gun out here and get ready to start the finishing process. Like I said before, I like to use olive oil. This is just regular olive oil that you buy at the grocery store. I'll just use this little foam brush thing to apply it to the holster, and then I'll let that dry, and then I'll put a second coat on it and let that dry as well before I put the Resolene on. Now I'm going to install the metal clip for the final time on the side of the holster, and basically I have a pair of channel lock nippers, a ball peen hammer, the blue gun. I have a rivet setter, and I'm just going to slide the clip down behind that leather square there and put the hole up over the top of the rivet. I'll use the blue gun here for something solid to hammer against. And then I will tap that little copper washer there over the top of the stud. You just tap it down. There's a little hole there on the top or on the bottom of the rivet setter there. And then you just cut what's left of the stud off with the nippers, and then tap down the top with the ball peen hammer. And there's kind of a shot of what the finished product looks like. You can also use this rivet setter to help dome down the top of that rivet a little bit more. And this is a quick demonstration with my shirt tucked in and then with the shirt not tucked in of how this concealed carry holster works. This is Andrew in Omaha, Nebraska. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.